Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking the latest stacks of intelligence, your sources, the official forecasts, the long-range modeling.
And we're cutting straight to the core of what you really need to know.
We really are. So today we are doing an intense deep dive into the early January 2026 Australian weather outlook.
Specifically, focused on the period from January 3rd right through to the middle of the month. Our sources are pretty comprehensive dedicated weather channels, official bureau reports.
And what they're revealing is it's not just a forecast, is it? It's more like a national stress test.
It is. It's driven by two intensely regional and equally severe threats.
That's the key takeaway right from the jump, I think. This is not some unified weather pattern. It's a dramatic split screen. You've got the potential for, truly staggering, record-setting rainfall and major flood risks across far north Queensland.
And that's happening at the exact same moment that we're seeing historical level heat and, frankly, catastrophic fire danger building across the southeast.
So our mission today is to pull out the functional intelligence from this very complex scenario.
Precisely. We'll spend time detailing the potential development of a slow-moving tropical low, probably in the Coral Sea. And its primary threat is not wind, it's water. We could be seeing accumulations well over 1,000 millimeters.
1,000. And at the same time, we have to understand this extreme heat setup driving fire danger in the southeast to levels that, well, they draw some very uncomfortable comparisons.
They do, unfortunately, to the devastating 2019-2020 season.
Okay, let's unpack this. We'll start up north where, the story is already unfolding right now, January 3rd.
Yeah, we're looking at a multi-stage event, and the initial action is already underway. It's funneling very heavy moisture into far northern Queensland.
That's the core message from the bureaus.
It is. We've already seen significant overnight totals, all driven by a mid-level low-pressure system. The numbers are impressive. We're talking widespread falls between 100 and 250 millimeters.
But the key observation here is just how concentrated that rain has been, right? It's all along the immediate coastline.
That tells you everything. It tells us the moisture is being forced hard up against those coastal ranges. So, for instance, areas just east of Townsville, Halifax, the Herbert River area, they've seen between 120 and almost 200 millimeters already.
Whereas Townsville itself was, what, relatively drier?
Much drier, about 50 millimeters. And this initial concentration, it really sets the stage for what's coming next.
So what is coming in the immediate near term, say the next 24 to 48 hours before this bigger system really starts to brew?
Well, over the next 2 days, we expect the rainfall to really ramp up significantly from Townsville down to Prosser Plain. The focus is going to be heavily on the Bowen region.
And that's driven by what forecasters are calling a convergence zone.
It is. And for you listening, a simple way to think of a convergence zone is, well, it's a moisture traffic jam.
I like that. A traffic jam.
Yeah, it's where these low-level wind flows are meeting and pushing the air up. In this case, it's pulling moisture in from the north and the northeast at the same time.
Maximizing the rainfall for a very, very specific coastal strip.
And the numbers reflect that. In this initial phase, the Bowen area could get hit with between 100 and 250 millimeters, maybe an isolated 350 in the ranges.
What's fascinating here is the localization of this threat. It's almost surgical.
It is. And the sources highlight that contrast really sharply. Mackay, which is just down the coast, is unfortunately forecast to remain pretty high and dry.
Really? How much are they expecting?
Probably only 10 to 50 millimeters maximum. They're just completely missing out on this moisture.
Okay, now we have to look ahead. This is where the long-range forecast enters, well, truly unprecedented territory for mid-January. We're talking about this tropical low development.
That's right. From January 5th onwards, we're watching the formation of a much broader, sprawling area of low pressure. Most models agree it's likely to consolidate in the Coral Sea, right adjacent to the Cape Peninsula.
And the Gulf of Carpentaria is a secondary watch area.
It is. We have to keep an eye on it. But the Coral Sea is the main game.
Now, the word tropical always raises alarms. We need to be crystal clear about the nature of this threat as the sources are defining it.
Absolutely. This is crucial. The sources are definitive. Current forecast models do not reliably predict this system will organize into a powerful tropical cyclone.
So no Cat 3, 4, or 5 with damaging winds.
Exactly. The impact is purely hydrological. It is a slow-moving, massive volume of rainfall.
That distinction changes everything in terms of preparation. So let's focus on the water. A slow-moving low can stall, and that's what makes this forecast for the Cassowary Coast so concerning.
It is. We're talking about daily accumulations of 100 to 200 millimeters per day.
And that persistence is the key. When you look at the total accumulation over the whole period, what are the models saying?
Well, long-range models are now calling for totals as high as 500 millimeters, with some highly aggressive models pushing for 1,000 millimeters plus in the gauges.
A meter of rain. I mean, that is just an astronomical figure. What gives forecasters confidence in numbers that high for a long-range forecast?
It all connects back to the speed and the positioning. This system is forecast to move incredibly slowly. It just sits there and continually pumps moisture ashore into the same geographic corridor for days.
Like leaving a fire hose running on a single spot.
That's a perfect analogy. And the areas most likely to cop this are the usual rainfall hotspots: Ingham, Tully, Innisfail. They could all potentially exceed 1,000 millimeters.
And Mission Beach. I know that area is used to high rainfall.
It is, but it could be in line for 1,300 millimeters in isolated pockets. And even further north, Daintree, Mossman, you're looking at widespread falls of 400 to 600 millimeters with isolated totals approaching that meter of rain.
And that's a region already soaked from the wet season. After this week-long assault, when does the region get a chance to breathe?
We should see a significant easing after about January 13th to the 15th. The rain won't stop completely, of course, it's the wet season.
Right.
But it should drop back to a more typical, manageable 20 to 50 millimeters a day.
So we've established the volume of water is just staggering. But let's move on, because volume alone doesn't define the risk. You brought up this critical concept of saturation.
Yes, and this raises a really important question for you, the listener. Why is less rain now potentially going to cause more serious flooding than a massive dump we saw earlier in the season?
That's the aha moment, isn't it? The thing that changes the entire risk assessment.
Precisely. The sources explain that the rivers, the ground, everything in far northern Queensland is already completely saturated. Weeks of heavy, persistent wet season rain have led up to this.
So the ground is like a full sponge. It has zero capacity left to absorb anything.
None. When rain falls now, it immediately becomes runoff.
Can you use that anecdote from the source material to put that into perspective for us? The one about Mission Beach.
I can. Earlier this wet season, the region showed its typical resilience. We saw 1,300 millimeters of rain at Mission Beach.
And that only caused minor flooding in the Tully River.
Minor flooding. The area can cope. But the source material now warns that if we see even 500 millimeters in that same area,
less than half the rain,
because of the current saturation levels, it is highly likely to result in moderate or even major flooding. The rivers will crest significantly faster.
That is the crucial takeaway for the Cassowary Coast. The implications are very serious.
Very serious, particularly for low-lying areas. Think about infrastructure along the coast. Cardwell Gap, Hinchbrook National Park. If that 1,000-millimeter forecast happens, we will see major flooding.
So for residents in those areas, what is the clear, actionable advice from the sources?
The advice is consistent and it's calm. Residents in flood-prone or potentially cut-off areas should start preparing now. Secure valuables, stock supplies.
But they're stressing no panic buying.
No, because the threat is rain, not damaging winds from a major cyclone. The primary concern is being cut off for several days.
Mostly due to rising floodwaters or even landslides.
Exactly. Landslides becoming very significant risk in saturated, high-elevation terrain.
Okay, we've painted a picture of Queensland battling a slow-moving hydrological threat. Now we have to pivot completely to the south. It's a 2,000-kilometer jump, and the same atmospheric drivers fueling that Queensland deluge are doing the exact opposite down south.
That's right. They're suppressing rainfall and driving extreme heat into the south. We're transitioning from the moisture-laden tropics to what the sources are just describing as boiling conditions for southeastern Australia midweek.
So let's focus on that peak period, January 7th and 8th. What kind of numbers are we looking at?
The heat builds dramatically on Tuesday, peaking Wednesday and Thursday. We are looking at Mildura reaching 44 degrees Celsius. Adelaide is forecast for 41.
And further inland, the numbers get even more significant.
They do. Outback, South Australia, Western Australia, especially the Nullarbor area, they're pushing 47, 48 degrees. Even in the northwest, places like Panonica are expected to flirt with 49.
It's one thing to hear 47 degrees, but what does that level of intense heat actually mean for, say, infrastructure?
It creates enormous stress. I mean, this heat isn't just uncomfortable. It elevates public health risks, and it dramatically increases the rate of evaporation, pushing already dry landscapes toward ignition.
And how long does this dangerous heat stick around?
It's fast-moving. The heat builds and peaks midweek. Then a very sharp, cool change is forecast to arrive on Friday and Saturday.
So for southeastern Australia, that's 4 seasons in 1 week.
Essentially, yes. Going from record-breaking heat to much cooler conditions in just a couple of days.
That volatile change brings us to the second major threat in the south, extreme fire danger.
Right. When you combine those temperatures with the dry, windy conditions forecast, the risk elevates dramatically. Right. The fire danger ratings are predicted to be severe to catastrophic, particularly on Wednesday and Thursday.
And that's for New South Wales, Victoria, and South Australia.
Correct. This isn't just a high-risk day. It's a system-wide warning.
So what is the precise combination of factors making this setup so dangerous?
It's a specific trifecta that forecasters, frankly, they dread.
Yeah.
You have the extremely high temperatures, 45 to 47 degrees, in the primary risk areas.
Okay.
Coupled with existing dryness from the start of summer. And crucially, you have strong winds blasting in from the north and northwest, 10 to 30 knots in the afternoon.
And those northerly winds are hot, dry, and they just fan any ignition.
Rapidly, they drive fire fronts hard.
And the sources draw a rather sobering comparison to recent history, don't they?
They do. The specific meteorological setup, high heat, profound dryness, and those strong, shifting northerly winds, it's specifically noted as bearing a concerning resemblance to the conditions that drove some of the catastrophic fire events around Christmas and New Year's 2019-2020.
Which is why the level of public vigilance just has to be exceptionally high this week.
Absolutely. Now, in addition to the fire risk, there is a significant risk of severe thunderstorm activity accompanying these heat shifts.
Especially across the eastern states over the weekend and early next week.
That's right. That storm activity is already in motion. On Saturday, January 3rd, storms are building across the tablelands and mountains of New South Wales. High chance around Canberra.
And they could drift east toward the coast, Sydney, Wollongong.
It's possible, though less likely. Moving into Sunday, the activity really concentrates around the border regions. Sunday is forecast to be much more convectively active.
What does convectively active mean in real terms?
It means the atmosphere is highly efficient at generating thunderstorms, particularly near the border ranges and scenic rim of southeast Queensland. We have solid dew points, which sports heavy rain dumpers and significant lightning.
So localized flash flooding is a real risk.
A very real risk. And then Monday is predicted to be a big storm day for northeastern New South Wales. Widespread, scattered, pulsed activity across northern New South Wales, including Sydney and Newcastle. Lots of lightning.
And further inland.
Out towards Charleville and Roma in Queensland, we could see stronger, potentially severe thunderstorms develop.
Okay, before we synthesize this, let's do a quick national snapshot. Outside of these two major danger zones, the saturated north, the scorching south, what are the other capitals seeing as of today?
Based on the Bureau data, the rest of the country is pretty typical for summer. Melbourne is cool and cloudy, 17 to 21 degrees.
Perth,
hot and clear, up to 33. Darwin is classic wet season, high humidity, 26 to 33 degrees, maybe some storms. And Hobart is cool and cloudy, around 15.
And what about those two other tropical systems we mentioned? Any land threat?
Good to check them off. Now, neither is expected to impact the mainland. There's a tropical low near the Cocos Islands, but it's strengthening and moving safely away into the Indian Ocean.
An ex-tropical cyclone Iggy.
Already downgraded, moving well offshore from WA. It might re-intensify over open water, but it poses absolutely no land threat whatsoever.
Okay, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. Let's synthesize. What are the two key threats you need to be aware of this week?
The first is that staggering threat of 1,000 millimeter plus rainfall and the resulting major flooding in far north Queensland. It's driven by that slow, stationary tropical low, and it's compounded by the saturation.
And the second threat?
The second is the extreme historical level heat wave peaking midweek across the southeast. It's creating catastrophic fire danger ratings across major population corridors in New South Wales, Victoria, and South Australia.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, what does it all mean?
It really emphasizes the incredibly volatile and regionalized nature of this peak summer period. You're seeing severe dual threat outcomes, where regional extremes, profound saturation in the north versus intense heat and dryness in the south, are dictating the entire national weather picture.
It's a period that demands vigilance in two completely different contexts. And here's a final thought for you to mull over after this dive. While far north Queensland is world-renowned for its ability to handle monumental rainfall, like that 1,300 millimeters that caused only minor flooding, The speed at which these river systems have reached complete saturation suggests a hydrological challenge that is evolving much, much faster than the region usually faces.
It's a great point.
So consider how quickly a region's historical resilience can be just eroded by continuous, high-volume seasonal rain.
Stay safe, prepare accordingly based on your regional warnings, and keep tracking those alerts.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll catch you next time.